a place of importance. And now, some more lessons from biology, some advanced lessons. 4 basic lessons we completed, we now go to advanced lessons. Now each of these organs is saying, I shall pitch in. Organs like the liver try to regenerate, compensate and make up. If there is a necessity, the liver starts regenerating. You damage the liver, you abuse the liver, it still tries to regenerate and tries to compensate the individual. Let's take it this way. From outside, I'm trying to abuse my liver. But then, what is my liver saying? I will still compensate. I will try to work the maximum. Some structures try to do the repair. Somebody else is doing the damage. Let me say, some other organ is doing the damage, but then another organ is trying to do the repair. There are a set of cells called fibrocytes. Now, all of us know, if I have an injury, after some time, the injury heals and I have a scar. How does the scar come? The set of cells called the fibrocytes migrate here, they are elsewhere, they slowly migrate here, try and do the healing. And they deposit fibers and that becomes the scar. Now the fibrocyte is not saying, why the hell should I come and do the healing there? You went and hit yourself. Why should I come and do the healing there? No, the fibrocyte is migrating to do the healing at that point. So some structures try to do the repair. Some structures attempt to fight the intruders. Now let's say we have a hall here and some intruders in. There is somebody standing there and pushing the intruder out. And that somebody is not asking, all you fellows will sit happily in the AC and enjoy and I would have to do this watchman job? No. That person is not grumbling. That organ, the lymphocytes in the body, all the lymphatic tissues, all of us know there is a tonsil here. When you're a child, very often tonsil vingi pochu, tonsil persa pochu, tonsil operation. It's nature that wherever there is a point of entry of anything foreign, we eat. In what we eat, there can be some foreign substances. What we eat is practically something which is foreign. And when we breathe, there can be foreign structures going in, foreign particles going in. So what the nature has done is, wherever there is a possibility of entry of foreign organisms or foreign bacteria or foreign particles, nature has devised protective elements. So around this area, this area, what we call as the nasopharynx, where the nasal pathway and the oral pathway join up, the tonde area, that is the area if you see in a circle. If I take a section here and see in a circle, I'll see there are lymphatic structures, lymphatic tissue, which is kind of guarding around that circle. That circle is the gateway. And guarding the gateway are lymphatic structures, so that anything foreign enters in, this lymphatic structures will fight and try to push whatever which is obnoxious. You have similar structures all over the body. So there are exclusive structures of the lymphatic system which are trying to fight the intruders, push them out. They are only doing the policing job, they are doing the watchman's job, they are doing the border army officer's job. And each of this work is important. And some step in only if there is a need. There are some structures in the body, all the while they'll be dormant. We'll not even remember them. But they come into play only if there is a necessity. Otherwise, they just remain there, probably not even thought of, just forgotten. However, all of them keep working. Though I told you I'll not give a moral of the story, I'm trying to kind of give a moral of the story so that we travel on the same platform. All of them keep working, helping one another. They try to keep the body together, try to retain the harmony as much as possible till the end, till the near end, and do not give up in spite of several abuses. the kind of abuses that goes on, the way we abuse our organs. If only at the first abuse, any of our organs are going to turn around and say, look, you have been abusing me, I will not work. Probably many of us would not progress beyond the level of age of 8 or 9. One word from somebody, one heated argument, the kind of reactions that we have. If we only think we are all organs, we are all those entities in that collective whole. My internal organs do not react the way I would react if there is an abuse. They withstand, tolerate to the extent possible. If one organ fails, it fails only after multiple abuses which cannot, onslaught. It's not abuse, it's onslaught. Only after onslaughts, these organs tend to kind of give up. Even then, they don't give up. And as these lessons are open-ended, for a few more expansile lessons, for your fact file, collective productivity depends on individual communication. What do I mean by that? This is a lesson that we have learnt not directly from the human beings, but then we have learnt from organisms like the ant, the fishes, and similar smaller creatures. Smaller creatures. We call them creatures, isn't it? Jantu. And the kutti jantus have given this lesson. You find a trail of ants. Very often we find a trail of ants. There is some amount of sugar spilled somewhere, and then you've forgotten about it, but then the ants remember where the sugar is, and then big, long trail. But you think all the ants are communicating at the same time? They are not. If there is a collective whole, it does not mean all the entities of the collective whole need to communicate at the same time. No, they are not. What happens is, one ant finds out there is a particle of sugar there, and this ant gives this information to its neighbor. That is all. It is only one-to-one communication at that point. And this one-to-one keeps progressing, and then after some time you find it's a collective whole. If only this lesson is learned the correct way, proper communication or proper interaction with the closest point of contact. Closest point of contact, it can be anybody. The cell communicates with its adjacent cell. It's not looking for the same size, it is not looking for the same structure, it is not looking for the same function. It is trying to communicate to its neighbor. This individual communication ultimately gives collective productivity. Have you ever seen groups of ants, except for very sporadic situations, being disorganized? Ants are never disorganized. After a moment of disharmony, they tend to get organized because of this effective individual communication. File 2. Division of labor is a common occurrence amongst these structures of the human body. We have a huge brain there. We all know there is a left brain and a right brain. I would not go into the details. It is that same perimuli or the cerebrum which has two hemispheres. But then, the two hemispheres are not doing the same job. The left says, fine, I'll take care of certain things, you take care of certain other things. I don't have to do the same thing. That is not equality. Many of us are given to understand that equality comes in only when you do the same thing. You don't have to. Everyone has a right of place and everyone has a right of responsibility. And this is a very convenient system. If we can learn from this, it's a very, very convenient system. I'll just give you some example which many of you might be able to relate. Most of us are right-handed, and we know the left brain controls the right part of the body, or for right-handed people, most of the intellectual functions are controlled from the left side. When I say intellectual, I will not even go into the higher functions. I will say speech. For a right-handed person, speech control is on the left side of the brain. And that's why you find sometimes when the left side of the brain is affected due to various diseases, there is a right side hemiplegia, the speech is affected and so on, what you call a stroke and things like that, cerebrovascular accident and so on. But then what can you do? You would have noticed very many times during the treatment of such an individual, what is being done is to stimulate the dormant right brain. The left brain is out, that's damaged. But then the right brain is not damaged. What we try to do is stimulate the right brain so that the right brain takes over some of the activities of the left brain. Imagine if both these were doing only the same job, they will not be able to take over. The takeover is possible, the compensation is possible only because both of them had been focusing on different areas, and now takeover or compensation could happen if there is a necessity. Dissimilar components complement each other. This again is a law of the nature, law of biology. There is a small little conversation which is going on, or a kind of a judgment which has been passed. There is a very famous book which says men are from Mars and women are from Venus. It's only to say the kind of differences in attitudes that the men and the women have. Men and women don't have to be equal. They are complementary to each other. They are dissimilar. He analyzes love with a brain, the way the man looks at it. He analyzes love. When a girl comes to him and says, I love you, he analyzes it with a brain. But then she analyzes it with a heart. And that difference has to be there. Why am I saying this? We'll go back to the same example of the brain. Now please look at the two halves. Forget what's written there. Will you be able to kind of say any difference if you look at the brains of different individuals? We normally say, எல்லாருக்கும் ரத்தம் ஒரே கலர் தான், மூளை எல்லாருக்கும் ஒரே மாதிரி தான், இல்லையா? There is no difference in the brain. வெளியிலிருந்து பார்க்கும்போது there is no difference. Believe me, I have been looking at these specimens for 34 years. If you keep two brain specimens here, I will not be able to say bone specimen வச்சா கண்டுபிடிக்கலாம். Bone கண்டுபிடிக்கலாமா இல்லையா? Some bones have differences. We'll be able to find out. Brain ரெண்டு specimen வச்சா எது he brain எது she brain முடியாது. External appearance, no, you cannot. External appearance of the brain, no, you will not be able to make out the difference. But there is a difference. The female brain is definitely different from the male brain, or the male brain, if you want to put it that way. Why say the female first? Male brain is different from the female brain. The difference is not in the external appearance, but the difference is in the internal structure. In the brain, on the undersurface of the brain, you have a particular part of the brain called the hypothalamus. There is something called the thalamus, and just below the thalamus is a hypothalamus. This hypothalamus is related to, it subserves functions like emotions, memory, things that go along with your emotional part, the feelings and so on. And some of the smaller cognitive functions and things like, the performance. To make you understand this, I'll give you a kind of a real-time example. Let's imagine there are about 50 toys here. Right? I'll ask Rohit to arrange for 50 toys. The toys are of different sizes, different shapes, different colors. And then just permit one boy child and one girl child to come near. And tell both the children, எதை வேணாலும் எடுத்துக்கோ, அங்கிள்லாம் ஒன்றும் சொல்ல மாட்டார், அம்மா ஒன்றும் சொல்ல மாட்டா, எது வேணுமோ அதை எடுத்துக்கோ. You first permit the girl child to come. you will understand the reason why the girl child first. It's not, it's not the ladies first kind of stuff. I'll tell you, there is a reason for that ladies first stuff also. The girl child comes, 50 toys here. What she'll do is just look at it, stand here, முதல்ல பயம், எடுத்துக்கோன்னு சொன்னால் கூட திட்டுவாங்களோ, அம்மா முறைப்பாளோன்னு பயம். அதுக்கப்புறம் மெதுவாக the child will start walking around, go around 2-3 times. And then after all that survey, will go and pick up a toy which will have something to do with color matching, something to do with shape matching. If you have a peg and a socket kind of stuff, the child will pick up that peg and socket or colors. That is why you always say that, isn't it? Women are fond of matching colors. Sariyoda color, andha pacha vera, inda pacha vera. There are so many shades to the same color. And then after the girl takes the toy, she'll go sit in one corner. She'll be very comfortable in a corner where none of you kind of, approach her. She'll be happy playing with that. This boy will come, no survey, nothing. Straight go to the biggest toy possible. அது எடுக்கும் போதே அது 2 பீஸாக வந்துடும். And then have one piece straight targeted. அங்கே 2 படம் இருக்கு, அடி அந்த படத்து மேலே. This is biological, nothing wrong. This is very, very biological. It is there in my hypothalamus. Hypothalamus has cells. We talked of the cells, the nerve cells, the neurons, isn't it? There is no, as of now, as research has progressed, there is no gross difference in the number of cells. If I take a small section of hypothalamus and study how many cells are there, and take another section of hypothalamus from a boy's brain and study, I don't find the number varying much. But then, the way the cells are put together, the density, the cells separated out or they are close to one another, which means if the cells are close to one another, there is more interaction between the cells. You tend to sit in the first row and your friend tends to sit in the 4th row, there is no interaction. But then you sit close to one another, there is more interaction. So the cells interact with one another, there is more connection, and connections are necessary for the brain to grow. And these connections in the hypothalamus, in the girl child, have given her a kind of special affinity towards color matching, things which require integration. When can you match 2 things? Only if there is more neuronal integration. All the soft things, கோலம் போட சொன்னா கோலப்பொடி கரெக்டாக ஒரு லைனில் போகணும்னா there needs to be refined movements. Embroidery. Now these refined movements are part of the she brain. And probably with training the he brain can also bring that, but then it's not inherent. There are dissimilarities. Let us understand nature has its own dissimilarities, and dissimilar components complement better for the collective understanding of the society, for the collective invention of the wheel, for the collective civilization to develop. Everybody cannot be going out and fighting with the animals alone. When civilization developed, not everyone could have gone out and fought with the animals, the wild animals. Only the men would have gone out. The woman, she was tending to the seniors and the juniors. She was tending to the children and the old people. You require somebody to look after that too. That is not inferior and that is not superior. Dissimilar components complement each other. And to file 4 now, outgrowing and assuming other responsibilities is natural. There is a necessity at some stage for the component to outgrow and go to a different level. I cannot be sitting in one chair, clinging on to that chair and say, no, I'll be here only. I need to outgrow that level. It is very, very essential to outgrow, and there are organs which outgrow. What is this? Whatever he was talking about. Somebody has invented the wheel and that somebody is giving the wheel to the other person, but then what are they saying? No, they're busy dragging that cart without a wheel. You need to take something when it's given. Look at it at the right perspective. You don't have to invent the wheel every time you do that. When I said outgrow, one example of this outgrowing, what's happening here? Somebody is walking on all the fours. Get upright. It's a lot easier to talk to each other. Same level of talk. Somebody is down on the fours. It's difficult to interact. But why did I have that picture? We all know we have evolved. The human being is standing upright. But then our ancestors were quadrupeds. They were walking on all fours. The monkeys were trying to sit up. The apes were trying to come up. The apes were walking like that. If you're on fours, the quadrupeds, when they were walking on all fours, all the four limbs were required only for locomotion. But then, when man tended to stand erect, two limbs have become free. Two limbs have become free. Now he is not walking on all fours. Because these two have become free, what could happen? He could do something with the hands. He could focus, channelize the energy of these two limbs, invent the wheel, bring up so many things, civilization progressed. This capacity where you're able to hold something, give your suitcase to a monkey. Maybe for some time it will hold like that, but then it will not have a proper grip or a grasp. The grip and the grasp phenomenon, we call it as prehensility of the man. He is a prehensile. He is able to pick things. He is able to pick things, do these things. And if you try and kind of do a comparison, in all the languages over the world, anything to do with civilization or anything to do with activity is somewhere related to the hand. You call it krityam, isn't it? Krityam. What is being done, you call it krityam in Sanskrit. Krityam comes from kara. What is being done with the karam becomes krityam. You say management. I'm sure there are some management gurus here. Management. And the word means something to us. Management, management is a science. Management is an art. All that. Where does this term management come from? In Old English, there is a term called manager, and manager means controlling the horse. Manager as a word 5 centuries ago only meant controlling the horse, somebody in the horse stable. Manus is this part of the body. The hand we call, this is manus, M-A-N-U-S. So anything that you are able to, they were able to control the horse. They were able to pull the horse reins. And that is how the term manage came. And slowly, with your manus, you are able to manipulate, that is manage. And then, of course, the term developed further. But the idea is anything that you do, any activity of the human being is related to this part of the body because this part became free as we stood up. And we are able to do so many things, starting from the wheel to all your gadgets and doing all this kind of work with your cell phone and all that is only with manus. And why? Why did it become possible? Because nature gave you that. From quadrupedalism, you became a biped. And once you became a biped, these limbs outgrew. They did not say, come on, I have been walking. Now you're not giving me the importance. I need to still be walking. Did the upper limbs say that? If only the upper limbs were saying, I need to be walking, I should be the strength of the body, the wheel never would have been invented at all. So it is a necessity that at some stage, some organ or some structure will have to outgrow from its original importance, outgrow from its original responsibility and become something else. That is all to show how the quadrupeds became the biped, and then so many structural changes happen because of bipedalism. The spinal curvature, the rib cage getting restructured, the pelvis getting reshaped, alteration of the foot, the feet, the broad feet that we have. None of the animals have this broad feet because the feet will have to withstand. So now what happened? On the force, this part was anchoring the body. Now once this got released, the feet said, fine, I'll take over the anchorage and you do something else. So there is a necessity that components of a whole at some point of time say, come on, you take this responsibility, I will go and do something else. There has to be a kind of a mutual adjustment. And so the lessons are many. These are not the be all and the end all. There are several lessons. But the most basic lesson, it is for each one to learn their lesson, but then the most basic lesson is individual parts are important. Individual parts function well and achieve well. Individual achievements are always part of a comprehensive and collective whole. If only there is an emphasis on the individual achievement and the collective whole is lost, the entire thing goes to a disarray, and vice versa. As lessons are aplenty, learning goes on and on. Open-ended learners. The lessons are open-ended, learning abilities are open-ended. And as I stand here to say thank you, I do realize my feet are supporting me, parts of my body are balancing me, but some other parts are not overshooting. That is very important in the collective whole. I'll just give you a small example. We all walk. How can I define walk? How can I define walk? You know what is the easiest way or the most scientific way to define walk? Loss of balance and regain of balance. You know, when I do this, my balance is upset. But when I take this and come here, I'm regaining my balance. So as you're progressing, when collective whole is progressing, there could be a situation where there is a possibility for a tilt of balance, but the collective whole will have to regain the balance when somebody becomes the anchor. You know, when I'm stepping, when my left foot is going forward, my right foot is the anchor. When my right foot is going forward, my left foot is the anchor. So responsibilities will vary. Assumption of responsibilities will vary. Ultimately, these responsibilities will support one another.